Hello and welcome to this week's edition of iTorah. Unfortunately, for the third time in a month, I'm in the cemetery on a Friday afternoon. But as I've had occasion to mention in the past, there is a lot that one can learn from an experience like this. This week's Parsha, we have the unusual expression concerning Abraham, where it says, V'Avraham Zakein ba b'yamim. Abraham was old, coming of days. Now the commentaries are troubled by this double expression. The Torah doesn't waste any words. And if the Torah says he's old, well, we would understand that he's getting along in days. So why the double expression? Furthermore, we find a very similar expression just last week's Parsha, where it speaks about both Abraham and Sarah. And there it says, and Abraham and Sarah were old, getting along, coming along in days. So not only do we have the double expression, but we have the double expression twice. The only difference is that the first time is 37 years prior to the second time. What's it all about? Well, literally, ba'im b'yamim means coming into days. And what this means is that it's possible that life, so to speak, passes you by. That life doesn't really have any effect on you, that life doesn't really have any impact on you. And there are other people for whom life has great effect and great impact. And you often see this by looking at two people of similar age. One person looks young and fresh, without a care in the world, and another person, you look at the lines in his brow, the depth of his eyes, and you're able to see that this is an individual who's gone through a lot. Very often, the people could have gone through very similar experiences. Nevertheless, one was affected by them and one was not. Concerning Avram, we're saying that he was not only old, you didn't just have to look in the passport and see Abraham is such and such an age, an old man, but he's ba'im b'yamim. He entered into his days. His days had an impact upon him, as he had an impact on his days. They affected him, and he affected them. Now, if you think about it for a moment, the difference between a young person and an older person generally is that a young person is very much affected by what's going on in the world. He's affected by it. He's upset about it. He wants to act on it. This is why you find that the university campuses are full of activists for one cause or another, full of young people who really believe that they can change the world, they can have an impact on the world, that their generation is going to be better than any generation beforehand. That, the Lubavitcher Rebbe explains, is not a negative. It's a positive. It shows a freshness of being. Unfortunately, as time goes on, many of us tend to lose our passion, to lose our zest for life, to lose the ability to believe that we can actually make a marked impact on life and on the world. When it comes to Avram, the Torah tells us that not only was he old, but ba'im b'yamim, the world had an effect upon him, and because it had an effect upon him, he was determined to change the world, to impact the world. Life for him was not a game of cards. It wasn't a matter of passing time and thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do the next day? Let's find some way of passing time. No, life really impacted upon Avram. He saw the world and he decided he wants to change it. And therefore the Torah says not only was he old, he came into the days. He entered into the days. They had an impact upon him and he had an impact upon them. And the reason why the Torah explains, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says this twice, 37 years apart, is that you could have thought that Abraham at the age of 100, he was affecting the world as the world was affecting him. He hadn't yet lost his zest for life. He hadn't yet lost his youthfulness. But after another 37 years, now he's 137. No, Shane, it's come the time already that perhaps he's decided that he can't change things after all. And so the Torah tells us now, even at the age of 137, he was still a young man. He was still affected by life, and he was still doing his best to affect life. And what a powerful lesson this is for us. That no matter how old we are, let us never lose our zest, our passion, our youthfulness, our very belief that we can change the world. We may get old, can't help that, but let's ensure that as old as we get, we continue to enter into the days, live them to their very fullest. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.